All right, so in this one, we're going to look at some graphing skills. So on this first one where it says graph the equation, my equation's already solved for y for me, so that's really nice because that makes it easier for us to start. It's already in a y equals mx plus b form. So remember, I've got my m, which is my slope, my rise over my run, my change in my y over my change in my x's, and then I have my y-intercept, my b value, intercept. Okay, and remember this is where we start on the y-axis. Okay, so when I look at this first graph, my y-intercept is going to be at positive 2. So I'm going to start at positive 2. That's where my first point is going to be on the y-axis. That's where I'm going to start. That's my y-intercept. Okay, then I'm going to look at my slope, which is the 3/4, the number in front of the x. So that means I'm going to rise 3 and I'm going to run 4. So from this point I'm going to rise 3 and I'm going to run 4. And I can do them both backwards. I could rise a -3 and run a -4. So here is what a sketch of that graph would look like. Okay, let's look at the next one. When I look at the next one, let's think about where we're going to start. Y equals -1/4 x minus 3. So this is my m value. This is my b value because y equals mx plus b. We always start at the b, the -3. So I'm going to start at -3. And then from there, my slope is a -1/4. So that means when I do my rise, I'm really going to rise downwards and then run to the right. So I'm going to rise a -1/4. Or if I do rise a +1, then I have to go a -4. So that my graph looks something like this. Okay? So remember, positive slope, when you finish your graph, you should be going uphill. A negative slope, when you finish your graph, you should be going downhill. Okay? Let's look at the next one. The next one is just to check on your graphing coordinate skills. It's identify the quadrant the point is located in. So remember that your x value comes first, and then your y value. So my x value is 2. Here's 2 on the x-axis, and then my y value is a -4. There's y on the -4. So where those come together is right here. This is where A is going to go. Okay? B, again, my x is -3. That's where -3 is on the x-axis. Y is a +5. That's where +5 is on the y-axis. So when those two come together, B is right here. Okay? But it's asking me what quadrant. Identify the quadrant that each one is located in. So if you're like me, sometimes you might forget the order of the quadrants, and we always write them, for some reason, we always write them in, let's see if I can find a marker. We always write them in Roman numerals. And you start in positive, positive, and then work your way counterclockwise. So positive, positive is where we start. So this quadrant is going to be quadrant 1. And then we go counterclockwise. So this one will be 2. This one will be 3. And this one will be 4. So when it asks me what quadrant is point A in, point A is in quadrant 4. Point B is in quadrant 2. Okay. All right, one more thing. We're going to look at a quadratic graph, and then you'll be ready for your assessment. All right, so here's our quadratic graph. We're just going to remind ourselves what the vertex is and our x-intercepts and our y-intercepts. So when I look at this graph, it just wants to know what's the vertex, what are my x-intercepts, what are my y-intercepts. It is a parabola, a graph of a quadratic equation, and it does have a minimum because it opens upwards. So when I look, the first thing it says is what is the vertex. So remember, your vertex is your turnaround point. It's either your maximum or your minimum. And in this case, it's the very bottom, so it's a minimum. And what is that? It's -1 for the x value, and for my y value, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, this is going by ones, so 1, 2, 3. This has a y value of -4. So when I write it, we do want to make sure we write it like it's a point, right? So a parentheses, a number, a parentheses with a comma. So parentheses, my x value is -1. And then my y value is -4. Don't forget your comma in between. And then make sure you close that parentheses. Okay? Our x-intercepts are where we cross the x-axis. So remember, this one is my x-axis along this way. So where am I going to cross? I'm going to cross right here. And I'm going to cross right here. Okay? So sometimes our teachers ask us to write our x-intercepts as coordinates, and sometimes they just want to know what the x value is. So depending on what your teacher asks you, so you'll have to get clarification, but you could just say x equals -3, x equals 1, or they might want you to write them as points, which would be the x value is -3. My y value, since it's on the x-axis, my y value is 0. And then for this one over here, my x value is 1, and my y value is 0. So I'm going to write them as points, as coordinates. Okay? And then last but not least, we want to find the y-intercept. So where we cross the y-axis, so that's my up and down axis, is my y. So when I want to find that, it's going to be right here at 1, 2, -3. So this time when I write this one as a point, with my parentheses and my comma, I'm not moving anywhere. I'm on this axis. So my x value is right in the middle. My x value is 0. And my y value is -3. Okay, so my y-intercept is at 0, -3. Make sure you all can see that. Okay. All right, hopefully that helps you with some graphing information if you have forgot some stuff over the summer. Thank you.